I am here to talk about fixing your SEO in WordPress. And while this is WordPress centric kind of talk, I'm hoping that this will also help. Even if you're not using WordPress, there'll be some SEO concepts that you can learn just by being here. So I love Q&A, so we can always do Q&A after and talk about whatever questions you have about SEO. So, all right, let's get started. Just a little bit about me. Tara was so gracious in talking a little bit about what we do. I'm the owner of Papaya Search. We are a search marketing agency. We started in 2004. I am an old fogey website guy, not SEO guy. Well, actually SEO guy too. But I started my first web project in 1998. I was a corporate web developer for MCI WorldCom, which was famous for being the largest bankruptcy ever at the time, which I was proud to be there. I mean, I didn't really have a choice. I was there when it happened. I started SEO in 2002 as an affiliate marketer, and then eventually transitioned towards client services. And it's been a fun ride in the search marketing industry. I'm bilingual, and I am a fan of flan, both of those things. Let's start by talking about Baby Nut. I know the Super Bowl sounds like it was forever ago because of what's going on right now, but the Super Bowl was just in January. And if you recall, there was one of the ads that was introducing Baby Nut. This is Baby Nut in the ground. I think we might be able to play it. Just kidding. I'm back. Totally adorable, totally weird, and a star-studded ad. And they had this whole store created for it. And the website was shopbabynut.com. And so they were ready to sell stuff, right? Like they had this ad going, they had the website up, and it was ready to go. Even had updated their official Twitter account to include Baby Nut as the face of the Twitter account. Except when you search for Baby Nut on the day of the Super Bowl, this is what you saw. You saw a bunch of mentions on YouTube. You saw mentions on Twitter. But where's Baby Nut? Where's the official Baby Nut website? It's nowhere to be found. Somebody screwed up. In fact, if you look at the trending for Baby Nut around that time, I mean, it really just shot up, right on February 3rd there, right after the Super Bowl. It really just exploded. So, but you couldn't find the site. In fact, if you use the site colon operator, which we'll talk about in a second, what that means, but you looked at what the search result was for shopbabynut.com. It was please log in. Will open soon. That was the meta description, the entry for the meta description. Enter your store using password. Are you the store owner? It's like, what? Nothing about that says Baby Nut. So taking a look into the code, you realize that somebody screwed up. Apparently, he still had the code for the staging site without removing it before it went live. So the search results looked really funny. I'm using a keyword tool to look at where the shopbabynut.com appeared for search terms related to Baby Nut. And you can see it was ranking in position 16. So it really was nowhere to be found in the search results. So why is SEO important? SEO helps search engines to find content on your website and for people to find it when they search. So when the Planters company came up with the website, they forgot about the second part, that people were supposed to be able to find Search Baby Nut when they performed a search, and they couldn't. So let's talk about how search engines work. A search engine uses a bot, which is a piece of software, and it crawls the web following links. And so it finds a page on a website, follows all the links that are on the site, and that's how it discovers other pages on the web. And then after it crawls these pages, it creates an index of all these pages. Should say after. It's just collecting all that information as it's crawling the web. It is collecting it and throwing it into an index. And then using its algorithm, the search engine will display results based on a query that you search for on their search engine page. So you go to the homepage of Google, for example, you type in a search query, and that query is querying the database or the index of pages that it's crawled, and then displaying results based on what you searched for. So how do you get started? First thing to do is go to Google, type site : your domain name. And doing that, it gives you a list of searches, or it gives you the search results of all the pages that Google has indexed on your website. So in this example, I'm using a website for my parents' condo that I built a long, long time ago. And putting a site : for their domain name, which is marcoislandcondo.info, you can see all the pages that are being indexed in Google for their website. And there are lots of different types of operators you can use in the Google search results to do some investigating about your website. And Moz has a great guide on how to do that. If you search for Mastering Google Search Operators, it helps you find all of that information. So another way to get some information on this is to use Google Search Console to get some information about your website. What is Google Search Console? So Google Search Console is a tool that Google developed so that they can help you understand what they understand about your website. So it is a dashboard that gives you information about the keywords that come up for your website. It tells you things like how many pages it has trouble crawling. It allows you to submit your sitemap. It gives you 404 error. So if it's having trouble finding pages on your site, or if it runs into a 404 error where your page is not found, gives you those kinds of alerts. If there's issues with the site, like it'll give you malware notifications. It lets you know if there's something wrong. It allows you to re-include pages. It allows you to disavow links if you've had bad links. It gives you basically tons and tons of information about how Google sees your website, how it interprets it, and what issues it finds as it's crawling your site. How many of y'all are using Google Analytics? I'm going to assume some of you are raising your hand. But Google Analytics measures the activity on your website. It looks at traffic sources that come to your site. It looks at how they land, on what pages they land on, and gives you all kinds of information about the actions and activity that happen on your website. And you can use it to link to Google Search Console. So some people get those two confused, but with Search Console, you're getting information about how Google sees your site. With Analytics, you're getting information on how people interact with your site. So if you're using WordPress, there's a great plugin made by Google called Google Sitekit. And it gives you the ability to put in the Google Analytics tracking code on your site. It syncs up with Google Search Console, so it makes it easy. If you haven't registered your site for Google Search Console, it makes it easy to do that. And it gives you some information within the WordPress dashboard. So it's really cool for doing that. It also works with Google Optimize if you're using that, or Google Tag Manager if you're doing some advanced conversion tracking. So it's a great plugin. And it's only been around for, I want to say, a little over a year. And there's been reports of it being a little buggy, but they are very responsive about fixing it. So I've been recommending that my clients use it for their website and transitioning away from some of the other plugins that are available. Mainly because you get to see a lot of information just right in the dashboard. So speaking of WordPress, let's talk about how we configure WordPress optimally for SEO. So first things first, make sure that this box is unchecked. This is found within the reading settings of your WordPress dashboard. And a lot of times this will be checked when a website is in staging, or you're in the middle of development, or maybe rested on another domain name that you don't want to have indexed. And then sometimes when you push those updates to the live site, then this can be checked off. Or if you're building a new site, it might be still checked. I know a lot of times people it's like old hat. People already know how to do this, but I still have run into sites that have this checked off. So first things first, uncheck this box if you want your site to get crawled by Google or Bing. Let's talk about some SEO plugins. So there's about 3 that are basically the main plugins that are most popular for SEO. Yoast has been around for 10 years. I think they just celebrated 10 years as a plugin. They are probably the go-to because they have technical features and also have some on-page content features that a lot of people like to use. SEO Press is probably the newest of the 3 and has been rising popularity because they include all kinds of additional features that usually premium plugins you have to pay for in order to get. And then All-in-One SEO Pack is a third popular plugin, which I think recently got acquired. So it looks like it's still going to have an active support. So I tend to use Yoast primarily just because I'm most familiar with it. And there's a lot of great features with it that I enjoy that is not found in the other 2, like assigning categories and primary categories. But I primarily use it for the technical aspects of it, more so than, and some of the on-page for like title tags and meta descriptions, more so than looking at on-page content. So the SEO plugins, and most of these do these tasks. So they allow you to modify your title tags and meta descriptions. The title tag is important for optimization. It's like probably one of the first things that people see in the search results. And so it's good to have the keywords and the information that you want to target, make sure that those are optimized within your title tag. And then the meta descriptions, those are the information that appears below the title tags. So you can modify these pretty easily with these SEO plugins. Like I mentioned, Yoast has a readability analysis. So it has some features where it'll look at your content and make sure that you're using your keywords within your content. It also looks at the level of English that you're using. It has all kinds of content features, and it's got this red, yellow, green signaling to let you know how well you've optimized those features. It allows you to exclude pages from the index, and that's what the Meta Robots directive does. So say, for instance, you have a landing page that you're using for Google Ads, and you don't want that page to be indexed by Google, then you can set a no index directive for that page. You can create sitemaps that you can submit to Google and Bing, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And you can customize permalinks. So you can change your slugs and you can change your URL basically for that page. A lot of them allow you to customize how your share sheet looks like in Facebook and in Twitter. So that helps also drive more traffic from social. So even though it's not really directly SEO related, it does help drive traffic. It allows you to make modifications to robots.txt and htaccess. If you ever need to do some more in-depth and more technical types of SEO, it gives you access to do that. And it allows you to make these changes in mass to your title tags and meta descriptions. So it makes it very easy to see all your pages in a list and make these modifications. Let's talk about permalinks and slugs. So within WordPress, you have permalink settings, and many of you are familiar with this. It allows you to set the URL structure. Back in the day, if you remember from WordPress of years past, it was always a plain structure, right? With the P equals query string part of the URL that showed the page. And then eventually the date and month became popular. Nowadays, it's much more simplified as far as configuring your permalink structure. So within your pages and posts, WordPress allows you to make edits to the slugs. And so in this instance, we're still using the Marco Island page here. And you see that edit button with the bold text of beaches. It allows you to quickly edit your permalink setting. Your slugs for each of the pages. With slugs, there's some best practices for setting the slugs for your pages. Make sure that the URL is easy to read and share. If you have a long blog title, WordPress will automatically create a slug based on your title. There's nothing wrong with making some tweaks and modifications to the slug while your page or your post is in drafts so that you can make a nice clean slug for your page. Use keywords, but don't overdo it. So you don't need to add every last keyword in it. Or like, say, for instance, you're a local business in the Atlanta area where I am. It's like sometimes you see, restaurant, eating place, tables, Atlanta as the slug. And that's definitely overdoing it. Make it nice, clean, simple. Sometimes it'll appear in the search results, people will share the URL, whether in email or linking to it. You want to make it look nice and easy and not make it look too complicated. All that being said, if you have a slug that's already set, try not to change it if you don't need to, unless you're doing some kind of de-optimization possibly, or making things a little simple. But the best practice is not to change them. But if you do change them, make sure you set up a 301 redirect so that the old URL gets pointed to the new location, and that Google can find it, and people who may be clicking on those old URLs can find it too. And we'll get into 301 redirects in a second. Categories and tags. So let's talk about taxonomies. WordPress uses categories and tags quite a bit. With categories, there is a structure, organizational structure in place. I like to think of it as a pyramid. It's always good to optimize content on your categories with optimizing the title tags and meta descriptions. I feel like this is an opportunity for many people to optimize pages that they may not be aware that they can optimize. We're talking about like your blog posts, assigning a category to the blog post helps start to build a landing page or even a pillar page for that category that links to all your interesting content that's related to this category. So I think that there's always a lot of good opportunities to optimize these category pages so that you can get more traffic to those pages. And in using like the Yoast plugin, you can actually set a primary category for those posts. So if you do some tweaking of your category URLs, you can have them linked to specific categories and have a nice structure. But that's for another discussion. Tags are also used quite a bit in WordPress. The way tags are used is to give you specific details of content. It's not really a category. That's why they're different. I find that tags tend to be overused in WordPress. But to give you an example of what a tag is primarily used for, it would be like ingredients for a recipe. So if you're looking at a recipe page, the categories may be Italian or maybe it's seafood. And then the ingredients are like, maybe if it's seafood, it would be like lemons or pepper, salt, right? You can use salt in all kinds of recipes, right? And so, salt is kind of like the link between all these disparate kinds of pages, versus a category of like seafood is specific to a type of thing. So it's always best not to compete with one another. And if you do have a lot of tags, you can always set them to no index. So Google kind of pulls these pages out of the index. And the time you want to do that is that if you have a lot of tag pages, sometimes what happens is that you have a bunch of posts or pages that are linked to it, or actually it's just posts. You have a bunch of posts that are linked to a tag, and that tag just has one page to it. It's really not enough content to really make the page worthwhile to be, from either a user or for a search engine. So in those instances, it's probably best just to either no index them or get rid of them altogether. I find most sites really don't need it unless you have like recipes or you're a news site. A lot of times you really don't need these tags. Another important factor for SEO is mobile responsive. Googlebot now crawls the web looking at the mobile versions of the site. It's part of their mobile first initiative that they've been rolling out over the past several years. And so a lot of times when Google's crawling the site, they're looking at the mobile version of the site. So right now, over 50% of all searches on the web are happening on a mobile device. This number will likely continue to grow, especially now as all of us are practicing social distancing and really on our own. We're even more tethered to our mobile devices than ever. So with Google, they understand the importance of having a mobile-friendly website and having a mobile-friendly experience. So that's why they initiated the mobile first index. So Google's index is based off a mobile version of your site. So it is the primary version of your website. So this day and age, with if you're building a site in WordPress or really any platform, mobile is definitely still considered to be an important factor of designing the site. Site speed. So I mentioned about user experience when it comes to mobile device. Same applies to site speed. Ideally, your page should load. Any page on the web should load within 3 seconds. And this was a metric that is over 10 years old now. And by the time 3 seconds rolls around, most people lose interest, or they just are just sitting there waiting, and it's In your mind, it doesn't feel like 3 seconds is a long time, but when you're looking at your phone or you're looking on the web, it feels like an eternity. And so people get turned off by that. So how do you optimize your site for speed? Think about installing a site caching plugin to minify your HTML and CSS and your JavaScript, using a WordPress optimized website or a cloud hosting website helps improve site speed and response time. Make sure that your code is clean. There are a lot of themes for WordPress that are out there, and over the years, there's just been a lot of themes, probably the ones you see on ThemeForest, a lot of those, they've been developed for that time period in time, but haven't been optimized or updated since they were released. So making sure that you're taking advantage of advances in code, including PHP, WordPress, making sure you're taking advantage of the latest version of WordPress. Having good, clean code helps with site speed. And clean out any plugins. So if you're using plugins or add-ons, if you're not using them, get rid of them. And certainly make them deactivate them, but get rid of them if you don't need it. Also, avoid shared hosting. If you're on a web host that's been around for a long time and you've got this really awesome deal, but you're on a shared environment, any other website that's on that shared environment can impact the performance of the website overall because it's impacting the server. So think about your web hosting and looking. There's so many great solutions and they're not that expensive out there. So look for a good web host. Here's some tools to help you with site speed testing. GTmetrix, I like using GTmetrix. It gives you some really good insights. Google has their own page speed insights tool. They also have a mobile page speed insights tool to give you an idea of what the page loads in mobile. As you know, code can be different for mobile and desktop, so it's always good to check in both. And especially in a mobile-first index, mobile-first world, it's always good to check the mobile, make sure mobile speeds are good. Webpagetest.org is also a good one. Pingdom is also a good one. Lighthouse, it's built into Chrome. If you're a Chrome user, it is built right into Chrome, so you can do some audits and tests, not just for speed, but also it even looks at SEO factors too, and it's all built into Chrome. You just have to right-click and inspect, and you'll see Lighthouse right there. Optimizing images. Images are really important. We have these awesome mobile devices, and they take great pictures because they have these awesome cameras on the back. And a lot of times we upload those to directly into the website, and they have a lot of metadata. They are large image files, and they can really impact performance as far as loading one of those images down into a browser. So there are a lot of plugins that can help strip out the metadata and resize the images without compromising the quality of the image. So that all helps with speed. Another thing to do would be to set the alt text for your images. The alt text helps not only with SEO in image searches, but it helps with accessibility as well. So accessible devices can detect what the image is for somebody who's visually impaired. So if they're using a screen reader, using alt text identifies what the image is. So if you have good alt text for that image to describe the image, it's great. You don't need to stuff it with keywords. In fact, it's preferred that you don't do that because then somebody using an accessible device has to read through or listen to a string of keywords. So it's just best to describe what the image is about. And you use a keyword in there if you need to. You can use CDNs also for image hosting. If you have a large site, use a CDN to help you with image performance. I talked about the plugin audit already, but remove any plugins that you don't need. Disable the ones that you're not using. A lot of these plugins have their own JavaScripts and they have their own code that just adds to the web page and load times. So get rid of them. If you don't need them, say goodbye. It's Mary Kondo them. Let it go. Let it go with love, you thank it and let it go. Yeah, let it go. Title tags and meta descriptions. All right. So this is a snapshot from Yoast SEO plugin. I briefly talked about this already, but it's really great to be able to optimize each of your title tags and meta descriptions for your most important pages. So thinking about the pages that are on your site, a lot of your important pages are linked from your homepage. And if they're not, they should be. and optimize those title tags and meta descriptions. A lot of these plugins offer the ability to make sure you're using best practices. So like for example, in this Yoast plugin, there's a meter there that tells you if you're too short or too long as far as the length. And with Google, they use pixel width. So it's not characters, but it's actual pixel, and the pixel varies by letter. And so this tool allows you to look at how long and short these meta descriptions are. But ideally, you want to keep the title tag under 65 characters and limit the meta description to 160. And this tool also gives you the ability to see what it looks like in the search results. So you can get a sense as to what it looks like in desktop and in mobile. Let's talk about sitemaps. Sitemaps are basically sitemaps that are groups of content that it's basically a list of all the pages on your site. And then some plugins will group the content based on the post types and page types of your page. And in this example, I'm using an example of what a WordPress sitemap looks like using the Yoast SEO plugin. And it's basically broken down by post type and page types. And in this one, it's kind of gone to the extreme, because with WordPress, there is a tendency to use page and post types for all kinds of components. So in this example, there's even some that are using the FAQ component from Avada, which is a theme. I don't know too much about Avada, but I know that it does love to create all these different sitemaps for it. And what you may not realize is that you may have a bunch of pages that are appearing in the search results that you may not be aware of. In this example, this website is using an FAQ component from Avada, and it's just supposed to display this accordion style on one page, but really what it does is ends up generating a bunch of pages on the website, which you don't intend to have. And so here's this one FAQ entry appearing in the search results with its own page. And I don't think this is what was the original intent of this website to do. So you can go into Yoast and disable those pages from appearing in the search results. So Yoast does a great job of breaking down the different content types of the website. And the content types are basically all the post types that appear. So it includes whatever theme post types are created, whatever plugin post types are created. It's all listed here. So you can see a breakdown of that. So, and also if you want to see what this looks like, if you have Yoast, all you have to do is put in your domain name /sitemap.xml, and you'll see every single sitemap that's generated from the server. All right. So I briefly talked about 301 redirects. So a 301 is a response that a web server gives when a page is moved permanently. And so it's much like the 404 error. So like when you hit a 404 error, the 404 is the response number that the web server gives. So with 301 redirects, we're trying to reduce the number of 404 errors that the site has. And so by setting a 301 redirect, we're telling search engines and the web browser that this URL that you visited is actually over in this new location. So the new address for this URL is here, and it is permanently here. So please update the canonical for this URL. So it does two things. It allows search engines to know that, hey, this page has been moved, and it also reduces the number of errors that your website has. Helps with usability, helps people find pages that may have gone missing. And also it lets search engines know that the information is over here. It is now in this new location. Please pass whatever benefit, or like treat the page of the index of this that you originally indexed, treat it like it's over here now. Structured data it's metadata that helps provide context to some of the content that you're seeing on a page. Google uses metadata to enrich their search results. This example here that I'm showing is a prime example of different types of structured data that you find in the search results. The first example is a movie, and it includes ratings. IMDb does a really good job of encoding pieces of content, basically stating that this information is about a rating. This is the information that is showing the different actors and the director. It's all metadata that helps enrich the search results. So Google will use this information that is in the code, and then Google will pull that information and display it in the search results. So you see it all the time when you're searching the web now. It is definitely something you should add to your site if you can. We can do a whole talk on structured data because there is just so much involved. as far as the types of code and depending on the type of page it is, you can have a different type of structured data. Like recipes, for example, includes things like time to prepare, how many calories the meal has. It even shows an image, and Google wants to have a good user experience and knows that if you're looking for a recipe, you'll probably be enticed by the photo. So that's why it's showing the image of the meal in the search results. So that's why adding structured data to your content is important. And there's several different plugins that do this job effectively for WordPress, but you can also enter in the code yourself. So you don't need WordPress to do this. It is really just a matter of adding the code and information to the content on the site. So let's talk about some of the things that can affect your SEO negatively. Thinking about mobile user experience, you don't want to have an interstitial or a pop-up that takes up the whole page. In fact, Google warned webmasters to not do that, that they would be not necessarily issuing a penalty, but basically if you had a pop-up that appeared entirely on the mobile device and taking up the whole screen, that it would negatively impact you. It wasn't like a ban or anything, but it was like, okay, well, this is a bad user experience. So we're going to you may not be as high as you would be if you didn't have that pop-up. If your robots.txt file is blocking all bots, so robots.txt is a text file that resides on the root of your server, and it allows you to give directives to bots to crawl, and you can be selective of the bots that can crawl your site. So make sure you don't block Google from crawling your site. Your htaccess file, if there's an error in your htaccess file, it could cause a redirect or causing issues with the site that can affect your SEO. If you're blocking your CSS or JavaScript, this used to be a trick that some shady SEOs would use so that they would show only text on the site. Don't do that. Google wants to see what users see. Google's all about user experience. So as long as you're bringing a good user experience to the site, that's what they want. If have your site been hacked? Has your IP been blacklisted? Are you on a server that has some websites that are engaging in spammy behavior? Those can negatively affect your SEO. Did you buy links as part of a linking scheme, or you're involved in link spam? That can also negatively affect your SEO. If you have duplicate content, there was a site that I worked on where the person told me, it's like, oh yeah, I have tons and tons of content on my site. And, and it looked like he did, but then you looked at the website and it was all content from Wikipedia. It's not unique enough to have content from Wikipedia. You need to have your own unique content, your own original unique content, and you just need to have content. Other things to do: design and develop your site for humans, not bots. User experience again. Thinking about how visitors are going to experience your site when they visit. Google looks more and more at user experience. They want to have the best search results come up on the first page. So part of that is having a good user experience. So make it for humans, not for bots. Create unique, compelling content. A lot of the stuff we've talked about has been technical in nature, and being technical about your SEO does help. But if you're a small site, having content, just creating content that people will link to, people will find interesting, is important. Will move the needle in some ways more if you have a small site than making technical modifications. Technical is important, but content is also very, very important. And getting links to your site, also very important. Local citations. So if you're a small business, put a local citation information. It just really helps let the search engines know that this is a local business, has an address, has hours. Put your customer service information, make sure it's consistent with like your Google My Business listing, just making sure that you have a local citation for your small business. Share content through social media. So be active on social media and share content. It doesn't directly impact your SEO. Like just getting Twitter links doesn't impact it, but getting people to come to your site and then having them link to you, that will affect your SEO. That will help your SEO. Participate in forums, be active in your community, write articles for other blogs and websites. Be a participant in your community, show yourself as an expert. Getting a secure certificate for your site. Google definitely wants websites to be more secure. It's been a big push of theirs for the past couple of years. It's very easy to get a Let's Encrypt certificate. They're free. A lot of web hosts offer it for free. So make sure you get a secure certificate for your site. It's pretty easy. Cool. Bonus round. Two Chrome extensions I like. I like to use SEO Minion, and I like to use SEO Meta One-Click. SEO Minion gives you a lot of details on some SEO things that may be impacting SEO. SEO Meta One-Click just gives you a quick snapshot of like header tags and your title tags and meta descriptions. It just makes it very easy to just see all that information. So I'm a big fan of those. So yeah, so let's talk about these key takeaways. Register your site in Google Search Console and Google Analytics. Get a good idea of how Google sees your site. If you haven't done this already, go do it today. It's free and it's easy. It's easy to set up and do, especially if you have Google Analytics installed. It should be pretty easy to set up. And take a look at what Bing looks at your site too. They have their own webmaster tools, and you can pull in your Google Search Console data. You can easily sync them up. So it's very easy to get set up on Bing webmaster tools. Find yourself a good SEO plugin that you like. I like Yoast. It's my favorite, but a lot of the other ones are good and do a lot of the same work that Yoast does. So think about usability. I already talked about this. Good site structure, good site navigation. Make sure people can find content easily on your site, especially from your homepage. Don't put everything on your homepage, but put the most important stuff on your homepage. The most important things that you want people to see on your website. Put it on your homepage. Make sure it's mobile responsive. Talked a lot about that. Take advantage of schema. There's a lot of good articles on schema. Maybe I'll share that in the Facebook group so that you can look into, because we could do a whole talk on schema. It's really cool stuff once you get it going. Improve your website's performance. If it's slow loading website, find some ways to improve the site speed and measure and monitor. Use Google Analytics to take a look at how these impacts that you make to your site. What does the impact look like? What are the keywords that you're ranking for? I hope this was helpful. Thank you for letting me talk about WordPress for SEO. My name is Bobby Kircher. I am the founder of Papaya Search, search marketing agency in Atlanta, Georgia. You can connect with me by visiting papayasearch.com, or I'm at Bobby Kircher just about anywhere. So I look forward to Q&A. So thanks for letting me talk.